who you can't share good news with, or who not even can't, but who you're uncomfortable sharing good news with. That is a telltale sign. Like you yourself are comfortable sharing bad news with this person or that person or your struggle, but who are you like viscerally uncomfortable sharing good news with? I think,
Or who do you avoid sharing good news with?
yeah, yeah,
Even with some family members, you're like,
yeah. That's what I'm saying.
yeah,
Not you.
nah, they're good.
Not
They'll
you.
find out
They'll
later.
find out regular conversation. But as
Yep.
far as me sending a text or placing a phone call, yeah, I'm
I
not.
was glad you sent me a text. I was like, yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, exactly. No, yeah, yeah.
And then I did think that. I did that question I asked you. I was like, I got to ask him the question.
This is a daughter podcast where dads come to talk, think, and thrive with your host, Oscar and Blandon. Our mission is to cultivate a community of strong, mindful, and present fathers.
We want to curate honest conversations with all men, but especially those who have the honor of raising daughters.
Hey, everyone. Welcome back to the Daughter Podcast. I am here in a hotel room with Blandon on the other side. What's up, man?
Hey, man, how are you doing over there? You are not on your regular side. What's going on?
Not on my regular side. I don't have any girly things behind me.
You don't?
But, you know, the job calls for travel and I'm traveling. So we're here.
I feel you, man. I traveled this week too for a couple of days. And actually, for these next 3 weeks, I'm going to be traveling, but it's okay. Right now, I'm getting to spend some much needed daddy daughter time with the girls. My wife is out of town for another gig, which we are super excited for her about. She just finished up a tour and now she has another gig that she's doing. And so all of that's great. We miss her, but
Yeah.
all of this time, like when I travel, I'm away from the girls, and now I have all of this extra time to catch up with them. So that's great.
And you're giving me some of that right now, huh?
Yeah. I'm giving well, yeah, we're giving our viewers and listeners some of that time right now. Yeah.
Right, right. Well, in that conversation, we were talking about homework and
Yeah.
things that you've been doing with your girls, particularly this week. And then I think the last week when your wife was out too.
Yeah, man. So really so they are at a new school, and it's a classical educational school, and the homework is a lot more rigorous,
Mm.
and I'm really glad about it because it is challenging them and stretching them in ways that is just helping them all the way around, helping with their development, their reading, their math strategies, their comprehension. They're asking a lot of better questions. And I love a question. I love a good question, right? Because a good question can unlock a whole lot of answers for you. So their homework is allowing them to do that. And even the fruit of their labor is being seen because they come home, they come directly home, and they don't even stop. My youngest wants to do her homework immediately.
Mhm.
She's a lot like me. She's an overachiever. The teacher sends home like these practice packets. She's like, Daddy, I have to do these over weekend. Over the weekend, I have to master my math facts and math strategies and this, that, and the other. And my oldest, who is a little bit more social, not as academic, is now really challenging herself. Like she's
Mm.
reading chapter books. She's reading everything. Everywhere we're going, she's trying to figure it out. What word is it? How long is it? How many syllables and vowels and just the whole nine. When she's reading, she's understanding subject verb agreement and syntax. And so it's really great. And just this past week, they were both, so this is crazy. They were both honored with this award called Scholar of the Month. And so they
Nice.
only award this award one student per grade.
Yeah.
And so both of my girls, two sisters at the school, both got the award in the same month. And so that is a huge deal. And we are
Yeah.
super proud of them for that, man. So, yeah.
Yeah. Congratulations. And I saw you had text me, and all I can do is find like celebratory memes to send you.
Yeah.
Like, that's a big deal. That's awesome.
No, yeah, yeah. It's a huge deal, man. So that homework has really been growing them. And but two things. We'll continue talking about homework, but I'm glad you mentioned that I text you and let you know that because we were also having a conversation about good news, right?
Yeah.
And there are just some people that you want to share your good news with. But then there are other people that you just kind of avoid sharing that good news with
Yeah,
because
yeah.
you don't know how they're going to take it, or you know how they're going to take it and it's not favorably, right?
Right,
They're going to dissect it, they're going to pick it apart, this,
right.
that, and the other. And uh tell me the quote again. What that came from Jordan Peterson, right? Yeah.
Yes, Drew Peterson does something to the tune of like, if you want to know your true friends,
Right. Right.
share good news.
Yeah.
Not only that, if you want to know who are not your true friends, share good news.
Yeah.
Because out of 200 and some odd muscles in the face, there's no way to control them all. So
Yeah.
you can find expressions that will give you something. And sometimes some folks are blatantly not happy with it, right? You share something good, they're like, oh, well, how much did that cost you? Or
Right.
how much
Right.
can I get you back? Or,
Right. Right.
what is wax you could got? Or, it's like when you share good news with the people that you think want to hear the good news, you want to hear their excitement to it.
Exactly.
Perfect example normally is like grandparents. If you have kids and you share good news with grandparents, they want your kids to win.
They
So
do. They do.
they're happy,
They do.
genuinely happy.
Yep.
Uh, where other people may not be. So it's just funny that you say that because it is interesting. Like you're talking about, sometimes you almost avoid certain people because they might not react the way that you thought they should.
Yeah.
But it's interesting though that we then continue to have those people in our circle, right?
Wow.
Because you're like,
Wow.
realistically, you're like, that. Why would I share good news with that person? Then why do you have them in your circle,
That's true. That's true.
right?
That's true. And it really is a lesson that we have to share with our girls because as soon as my oldest daughter did get that award, she got some teasing for it. She was saying, like, in her pod, you know how they sit together in a pod. Some of the kids were very unwelcoming. And so, fortunately, we have a system to go back and forth with the teachers. It's called Class Dojo. I'm sure other parents have it as well. And so, as she's telling me this, I was able to text and DM the teacher and say, "Hey, this is going on. You know, thank you for the award, for giving Harper the award. She's super excited about it. However, in conjunction with, like, now she's getting teased and bullied a
Right.
little bit." And they took care of it. And fortunately, at the school, they have these core values. And so the teacher was like, I'm on this immediately. And then the next day she came home and she was like, Daddy, you remember the kids that were kind of they were teasing me? They all wrote me apology letters and they
Mhm.
asked me for my forgiveness. And I was like, okay, baby. And so she was like, yeah, so they made me feel welcomed. And she was like, thank you for, taking up for me, Daddy, and doing that. And I was like, always, baby, I always got your back. But it's just another expression of that. It's another facet of that we have to tell our girls and show them how to first, celebrate themselves when they do have a win. Second, learn how to advocate for yourself when something inappropriate is happening. And then third, learn how to like recover, forgive people.
Yeah.
And I think it's really important to also for them to be able to discern who their friends are and who their friends are not, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. I like to use those things for that. And the sad part is that as our girls grow up, I've seen it now. I've got my three girls separated by 4 years or so.
Yeah.
And it's frustrating for me, for us, because we know better, right? But everybody's their best friend at some point. Oh,
Right.
everybody's everybody's their best friend. And at first you kind of just say, oh, that's good. You got friends, whatever. Because you don't want to just like shoot them down and give them the reality of things. But with my oldest now, I'm like, everybody's not your best friend. And the majority of people, not in a malicious way, but the majority of people don't necessarily want what's best for you because they
Correct.
want what's best for themselves. It's just
Correct.
a human nature.
Correct.
And so to have those things happen, it sucks. But I always tell my daughters, like, just look at people. Like
Yeah.
they're giving you an out.
Yeah.
They're giving you information. It's you. You now know where that person stands. Do you
Yeah.
have to go and blow them off and tell them you're no longer friends? No. But you now know where you stand with that person,
Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
So that gives you a gauge for who you trust with certain information, how things go, good or bad, how they may react to you, or if you can count on them for help. Like those things are really good markers to have in your back pocket. That person is not the person I go to for these things. These are the people I go to for these things, right?
Right.
It's a hard thing to have a conversation about because I don't want to just tell my daughters, no one's your friend.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's so important for me, at least, to teach them the value of being able to discern the people that are actually their friends and that are not their friends.
Yeah.
And you and I, as we grow up, we know that, right? I don't have that many real friends,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like,
Yeah.
like I have on one hand, maybe the people that I'll call if I need something crucial for me or my family, or if I have good news to share.
Yeah.
And this is talking about outside my direct family, right? Um, Although we talked about this too. Sometimes there's family members that you're like,
Sometimes there's family members who don't want to see you win. They
yeah,
don't. And it's really unfortunate. But and that's what's also sad for me with my girls is that other people see them as competition. And I'm not speaking just directly to, just family, but like these classmates or whatever, but also in family. Like unfortunately, it's like because we've made certain decisions in our life, me and my wife, to live a certain way and have certain principles and to raise our girls a certain way. Other people find ways to take jabs at it and to make little digs about it. And it's really unfortunate because I don't have that with other people. And I'm not saying I've never quote unquote felt jealousy or felt envy, but overall, have I felt jealousy and envy toward my friends? Never, never, absolutely never, because I want you to win. I've always felt like that. I feel like my family had ingrained that in me for a long period of time, and I felt like if my friends won, I also was winning, right?
yeah,
But now I'm having to teach my girls that listen, you don't have to dim your light for people. Just don't share the spotlight with them. You know what I'm saying? Don't share
yeah,
the spotlight with them.
yeah.
Keep your light over here. Let them see it, but you don't have to dim it. And I think for a long time in my life, I found myself in situations where I wanted to dim my light, how bright things were for me and how I
Yeah.
was feeling. But yeah, when you find real friends who you can celebrate with, who are really happy for you and genuinely want the best for you, you keep them close and you hold on to them. But you also have to, I mean, we're dealing with um young girls. And like we were talking about before here, we know boys are vicious, but I just feel like young girls are really vicious with like the gossip and the teasing, and it
Yeah.
can get really bad. And so I'm trying to help maneuver my daughters, suffer well in that. Like, don't go low with them. Don't go in the dirt with them. If they want to go to name calling and all these things, you try to have a higher place, have that value of and moral fiber that is full of integrity that says, you know what? That's probably all about you. That has nothing to do with me. And I'm going to stand firm on what I believe.
Well, we understand that those reactions tend to be about the person,
Yeah.
and and,
Yeah.
and it's easier. I think it's easier. At least it's definitely very easy for me to be like, oh, it's not about me. People take that drama like it's cool. It's not about me. And as much as I like to explain that to my daughters, like it's hard for them to concept that because I think they're still in that stage of like, well, why is this person not like me?
Right.
Because not everybody's gonna like you, right? It's the way it works. Not that we don't care about that, but just understand that you can be the nicest person in the world and someone's gonna hate on that. We see that all the time, right?
For sure.
There's people at work. We have this one individual who's super nice, like from the outside looking in, like it's like the perfect coworker. And then people talk crap. I'm like, that guy? Like, what are you talking about? You know what I mean? But it's just like everybody, I should say everybody, a lot of people find negative in anything,
Yeah.
period.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that is hard for me to relay to my daughters in a way that doesn't make them jaded and cynical,
Yeah.
right? Because there's been times where I'm talking to my oldest about this. She's like, "Well, then why even try?" Like, because that's what we do,
That's what we do.
right? That's what we do. You know, we are here to try to make our little world a better place.
Yeah.
That's it. And if they don't want any of that, that's their call. You don't have to worry about that.
Yeah.
But it's hard because they don't see that disconnect. They want to have everything connected really well, and it doesn't work that way.
Yeah. And I think it,
Especially now for us, like we're getting into junior high. We're getting
yeah.
into like, boys and things. And I say that because we are just now really seeing that viciousness within that demographic of girls. Like I remember that, but I wasn't a girl. I remember seeing
Exactly.
that I was growing up.
Exactly.
You're like, man, they're mean. Like, you know,
Exactly.
but I was never really the focus attack on, right?
Right.
But I saw it from an outsider's perspective, and now it I feel it from an insider's perspective. I'm not my daughters, but when they come and they tell me this information, I'm like, ugh, that sucks because I can see it coming. And it's interesting too that I'm able to see. I'm sure you as well because you're not in it. You're on the
Yeah.
outside. I tell my daughter, I'm like, that's coming. Just be careful with this one. She's like, no, she's my friend. I'm like, just be careful with that one. And sure enough, like something comes up. I'm
Watch
like,
her. Watch her. Yeah. So it's very interesting. So I'll give viewers and listeners just a little peek behind the curtain, I guess. People could judge me if they want to, it's fine. So one of my guilty pleasures is this movie called Mean Girls. So I find it fascinating and hilarious at the same time. But now that my girls are kind of approaching that, I don't want them to be a mean girl. I don't
yeah,
want them to be a
yeah,
mean girl. I really don't. I mean, I make jokes about it all the time about the whole like you can't sit with us and this, that, and the other, and blah, 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 and how that's funny. But the real life application of if they were to be a mean girl, I
yeah,
would not respect them. I wouldn't, because the whole thing is, yes, they're my daughters and I'm their dad, and that's the relationship we're always gonna have. But at one point, I want to respect you as a person. I want to respect you as a friend, maybe,
right.
one time in life when we're older. And while I think the movie is hilarious and funny, in real life, I wouldn't want my daughters to be that or be associated with girls like that. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Like,
It brings to mind like the saying like I love you, but I don't like you right now.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've had that conversation when, especially my oldest, she'll talk about some of the dynamics that are happening in her social world, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And you think back, like I try to think back, and I'm like, yeah, like as funny as those movies are, they're that way for a reason because
Exactly.
it's funny to us because you're like this is so hilarious because it's so true and yet it matters 0% in life,
Right.
right? But then in their world, that's all they see, and so
Wow. Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
not as funny to
It's
them,
not. It's not. It's not.
right? Because they'll relate it to like, oh man, that's happening right now.
Yeah.
This is my life happening on film right now, and we're like, this is so stupid. Like
Yeah.
that popular girl probably get like way out of shape. How about you know what I'm saying? Like the atypical karma swing, right? And it's like what this world has right now, this social world that you're seeing on TV is like matters nothing once they get out to the world, right?
Yeah.
I had a friend. Luckily, I've had him forever, but he's like he was real smart and kind of nerdy growing
Yeah.
up. And you watch those movies, and those kids never have friends or whatever. And now I'm like, that dude, one, has an amazing career,
Yeah.
does great things for the world. That was 100%, 180 degrees different than what a movie would have portrayed him as, right?
Right.
So
Right.
that's what I'm saying. It's funny to us. We watched that movie, and my daughter watched it, and it wasn't that funny to her. And it was for that reason because I realized I'm like, oh, this is what she's living. This is the
this is what
world
you're
that
gonna
she
go through.
lives in.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, she's trying to figure out who's popular, who's not popular. Where do I fit in? Who's being mean to me? Who's not being mean to me? Where do I fit into that? And we've had that conversation because she brings things up. I'm like, we will not be mean girls.
Yeah. Yeah.
We will not do that. We will not start fights. If we're in it, we'll finish it. But we'll never be the people to start it. We're not going to treat people in that way ever. That is not acceptable in our household. And she's like, yeah, yeah. But in conversation, I'm like, I can see those dynamics play in her head. And it makes me really cringe because I'm like, I'm a dude. When I was growing up, sure, maybe some of that was being played, but I'm like, I'm just gonna go play. Like,
Or
you know
you
what I mean?
just or you got in a so I think the movie was so interesting to me is because of the way that uh girls fight. The way that a girl fights and between
Yeah,
the way that guys fight, boys fight, like a fist fight, that's like 2, 3 minutes, right? And then you
yeah,
find a winner, and then even after you heck, even after you fight, you might be friends with the guy after the fight because now you've gotten whatever tension was between you out, right? Or you
yeah,
just might not ever deal with him and lick your wounds and go home. But the way that it's depicted that girls fight is so insidious, right? It is so manipulative and conniving, and it just takes time.
strategic. It's
It's
strategic,
very it's extremely strategic, and, even for this little glimpse, my oldest kind of experiencing that mean girl sting because she got something that somebody else wanted, and now
right?
they tried to turn her whole little pod against her. That was so, like, at this age, they're 8 years
Yeah,
old. And I'm
yeah,
like, now they're not using a burn book, right? They're not just writing something in a book and passing it around the school. They're
right.
using
Yeah,
social media. They're using
yeah,
text. They're using all of this technology to really capitalize on taking people down and destroying them.
right.
And these girls, once it's on the internet, it's always out there, right?
Out there, yeah.
So it's not like you can bring it back and scrub it and somebody's gonna find it somewhere. So it's just a different generation. And I feel like it's really my responsibility
Yeah.
for both of the girls. For both of the girls. And my oldest is super social, and my youngest is really kind of academically inclined. She's social too. Um, but she really advocates for herself. My youngest, she is like, listen, no. If I said no, it's no. If I don't want this, it's not this. And she even advocates
Mhm.
for her older sister. But I worry about my oldest because she is just so trusting, so soft-hearted, so
Yeah.
so really wanting to be friends with people and wanting them to be her friend. And I'm like, I want her to say, I want to say toughen up, but then I don't want to, like you said, I don't want to make her jaded. I don't want to make her cynical toward that. So it's a real tension. Yeah.
I think it has to be a consistent conversation because you don't want to get cynical.
Yeah.
Um, for me, like, I don't want to get cynical about how kids are.
Right.
You imagine if you had posted something, we'll say, because when did Facebook start? Well, 2004, 2005, something like that.
2000, yeah, what,
Yeah,
2003,
MySpace
2004,
maybe.
2000,
I
yeah,
don't.
yeah, yeah. Right, yeah, yeah.
But I'm saying, like, you posted something mean, whatever, and you maybe get in a fight. I don't know, because I don't think they do that nowadays very much. Like fights, like I asked my daughter that. I'm like, do people fight in your school? Like, not really. They go to social media and
Yeah.
that's how they're fighting. And I'm like, that's dumb. Like, put some blows to it and get it over with. You know? But imagine posting something. You mentioned that, like, I have probably at least two friends that I probably got in fights with. I know I
Yeah,
got in fights with when I
yeah.
was a kid. If I had not gotten in a fight and posted something and then try to be friends and then, like, you can look anything up because the internet is forever. That's so dumb.
Right, right,
And yet it can still be problematic. Like, it's so ridiculous.
right.
And not to mention now, like, back then, I mean, I'm so glad no one had cameras, right? Like,
That's the whole thing, right? Like
now, like, everybody's got a camera.
everybody has cameras.
Yeah, totally.
Everybody, every single that's what I meant to tell you. I was at the airport and this lady, she passed out unconscious, right? And so like we're running, I go to see if somebody is a doctor or a nurse so they can come over and do CPR because they're real strict about that now. Like it's anyway, that's a whole nother story. And so I do find a nurse and I bring her over and she begins to continue to perform CPR on her because the lady's son was performing CPR, but he was kind of getting tired and you could tell he was
Oh, yeah.
emotionally overwhelmed in the whole situation. although he was like our age or whatever, but it was his mom. His mom is unconscious. So you're performing CPR on your mom. And so anyway, but people are like,
On
cameras
the
out.
phones.
No, cameras out, bro. I was so hot. I was so upset. I was like, okay, this lady could be dying. She could die. And
Yeah.
you're like,
You're on.
and you're not doing anything. You're a bystander. Like, what are you doing? It's so dumb. It's so dumb.
It is something. You imagine if it was a doctor with a video up, like I should probably.
Oh my
I'm just saying you can get so trapped in that, right?
Yeah, it's so
I
crazy.
think it's worse than bystander. I think it's worse than being a bystander
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
maybe you're a bystander who's like, I've got no idea how to help.
Yeah, and I'm at the airport, so I gotta catch this flight. So yeah,
But then it's like, I'm just gonna pull my phone out and check
Yeah.
this out. That's just, and not to mention now you're videoing a medical
Crazy.
emergency.
yes,
Someone's face is on there, and
yes,
it's like, come on, man, you wouldn't do that at a hospital
right,
because it's
right.
illegal. Now
Right.
we're in a public place, and you're doing it to people. So
Yeah, and it's
no,
just uncouth. Like, what happened to the moral, communal respectability? You know what I'm saying? It's just like it's a
I don't
person.
know.
This is not a
But people
viral
suck.
moment.
No, people suck sometimes. I had a course that I went to, and we had this guy who deals with a lot of people problems within our organization.
Yeah.
And there was times where he just thought, be like, guys, people are crappy. That's another word that he used, but it was like, people are crappy.
Yeah.
People suck sometimes. And we have to deal with that. The problem is that you and I kind of know that, or we do know that as grown men, we pick our circles relatively
Yes.
cautiously, but our daughters are the ones that are
Right.
starting to do that in the middle of that. They're the man in the arena at that point, or woman in the arena, sorry, trying to get them through what they're going through and how to traverse that
Yeah.
in the most emotionally sound way is what I find really difficult. Because you know me, I'm just like, don't worry about that. Just forget about that person. Like, no big deal. But it's not that easy for
Right.
the girl.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how do you talk to your girls about people, about their environment? We have listeners from very young girls to graduated college girls to their daughters with their daughters. Teach us how to go about doing this because, as Blandon mentioned, he's got his 8-year-old, his oldest. I've got a 12-year-old, an 8-year-old, and a 4-year-old. So any learning we can get is highly valued. So please send your recommendations, send your thoughts to conversations@daughterpodcast.com. We read those every day. Also, if you look below, you'll see a text us link on there. We'll get those directly as well. And we'd love to hear your feedback on that. In the meantime, find us on all of our stuff through www.daughterdpodcast.com. You'll see all the episodes there. You'll see our social media, as well as all the platforms that you can use to listen and get connected with us. Until then, I'm Oscar, Blandon on the other side. We'll see you all next time.